I don't think I can go. Brigid must hate me.
Betty, love, she's been your best friend for years.
Tom, you went to arrest her son last week.
That's not your fault.
I can't face her.
Just go. If you don't leave now, you'll be late.
Fractured. A family, a nation, a dream.
There you are, Mrs. Barry. I thought I'd come in a few minutes early and give you a hand setting up.
You're very good, Mrs. O'Sullivan. There's not much to do. We've a good crowd in already.
Very exciting for our women's group, isn't it? Our first public meeting. I think it was a great idea to focus on first aid. I've loads of questions. Oh, how are you, Mrs. O'Brien? Hope your mammy's feeling a bit better. Death's door. The Lord have mercy on her. Shocking pain. Oh, I knew when I saw her last month, and the bloodshot eyes of her and the terrible blue tinge to her skin, she wasn't long for this world. How many chairs do you think you'll need?
There should be enough there, I'd say. Madge O'Doherty gave me some notes to copy out, basic first aid, so we can give them to people at the end. I did 20 copies. I hope that's enough.
Ah, Mrs. Barry, you copied all these by yourself. Why didn't you ask me to help? God knows you've enough on your plate, what with Sean and everything.
It's good to have something else to focus on. Takes me mind off it all.
Has there been any word?
We got word he was safe, whatever that means. To my mind, though, if you're not safe enough to be able to sleep in your own bed, then you're not safe at all. But what do I know?
Well, the RIC don't have him anyway, and that's something, I suppose. I couldn't believe they sent Tom Dwyer to your house to pick him up.
I know.
And you friends with Betty this long time?
20 years.
She was always in and out of the place when I lived with you. No sugar, Brigid, I'm sweet enough.
And fairness, she was very good to me when I married Joseph, and there were plenty who weren't.
Have you seen her since?
Hard to avoid, and she only living across the street.
Have you spoken?
What do you say? She looks the other way, and so do I.
God.
I know. And Joseph is refusing to serve him in the shop.
Well, I suppose you can't blame him.
No, and in one way I'm glad because of Sean, but then I feel terrible mean because didn't I used to be in exactly the same position as Betty? I should know what it's like. It's just when it comes to your own door.
And your own son?
And my own son. I'm really feeling for poor Kevin Barry's mother, I'll tell you. He's only a child, God love him, same age as Tomas.
It breaks my heart, Mrs. Barry. I can't believe they're going to hang him.
What? Oh, Brigid, no. They're never going to hang him. They couldn't.
They are, Mrs. O'Donoghue. The 1st of November. All Saints' Day. Did you not hear?
Nobody told me. How come nobody told me?
I sure was in all the papers.
In the papers? How? When did this happen?
They court-martialed him. It was so unfair. It wasn't his bullet at all that killed the soldier.
There was a soldier killed.
Yes, Mrs. O'Donoghue. Do you not remember? I felt very sorry for him, only a young lad too.
You felt sorry for him?
Well, of course I did.
God, you're very forgiving altogether.
What?
They say hanging is a terrible death. If the rope doesn't break your neck quick enough, you can be there for hours, shivering and shaking.
Mrs. O'Sullivan!
The breath slowly being squeezed out of you, and your eyes bulging and your face turning blue, and your limbs hanging off you.
Stop, will you? Oh, God, I'm very sorry, Mrs. Barry. That's terrible insensitive of Mrs. O'Sullivan to be saying things like that.
Insensitive? Sure, I was only saying
talking about hanging like that, and her poor Sean facing the gallows himself in less than a week.
What? No, Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Sean is going to the gallows. Brigid, why didn't you call me? Compos mentis. I'll organise an injunction immediately. Erratum.
The poor lad. I never even knew the British had him.
No, Anne, he's not going to...
I might need Donica's help. My son. He's in...
It's Kevin Barry who's going to be hanged. Kevin Barry, not Sean Barry.
Kevin Barry? Oh, bless us and save us. And there was me thinking it was young Sean you were talking about.
Kevin Barry, in Mountjoy prison. Sure, we know that. That's not news. How is that news?
It's not news. Nobody said it was news. We just said it was terrible sad.
Aye, it is. Terrible sad indeed.
And poor Terence McSweeney, God rest him.
Ah, don't be talking. Sure, hasn't the father been praying for him night and day? I can't get the man off his knees at all.
What it must be like to starve yourself to death.
I believe there's huge crowds in London paying their respects.
74 days. The pain he must have endured. And his body slowly weakening and shrinking and him losing all his faculties.
A very well-educated man. Didn't make it to UCD, mind, but he did attend the Royal University in Cork, which is almost as good, I believe.
The funeral will be only huge.
And him going blind, I heard, and falling into unconsciousness from the hunger.
I'm late. Well, our last meeting started 9 minutes after it was supposed to, so I left the shop 4 minutes later than I should have.
That's fine, Teresa. We're still waiting
I was further delayed by a large group of school children on their way to the church to pray for Terence McSweeney.
Oh, the children! Did you see my column there with all his friends?
I saw a column, yes. No friends.
Now there's a surprise.
Sure, they were all probably separated from their friends going to the church. They'd have to be on their best behaviour. Isn't that right, Mrs. O'Donoghue?
Of course that's right. The father always says that teacher theirs must have been selected from the demons of hell, with the cane never out of her hand, and a mouth on her sharper than a butcher's knife.
What?
No, he's only joking, I'm sure.
No, he actually said...
Mrs. O'Doherty, great to see you. It's very good of you to come. Thanks for doing this. Come on over here. I've organised this desk for you. I hope that's all right.
Oh, that's lovely. Thanks, Mrs. Barry. I've never done this before. I don't really know what to do.
You'll be grand. I've made copies of those notes you gave me. They're over here. So you can just work from them if you want and answer any questions that people have. You'll be great. Don't worry.
I'll do my best.
Look, we've a great crowd. They're all interested in what you have to say. I'll just introduce you and then you can start.
Rightio.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. We're delighted to see you all here. This is our Maynooth Women's Group, as you know. It's all about women helping women. All women, regardless of politics or whatever. We're very lucky today to have Mrs. Madge O'Doherty here. She's delivered many of our children, and even some of us over the years. And she's here to talk to us about first aid and how we can help ourselves and each other in case of an emergency. And we might have questions after we've heard what Mrs. O'Doherty has to say.
Oh, I'm not here to ask a question. No. Good Lord, no. I'm not staying.
No?
No, of course not. I'm just here to make a little announcement about my legal advice clinic.
Your legal advice clinic?
That's right. Many of you may know that my son Donica is studying law in UCD. Therefore, I myself am in a position to provide ex gratia legal advice to any person requiring it. I've gained valuable experience in the volunteer courts, so rest assured it will all take place in local parentis. Please contact me for further information. Good day to you all. Prima facie.
Thank you, Anne. Mrs. O'Doherty.
Right. Well, first of all...
Excuse me.
Yes?
I'd be grateful if you could outline your proposed content for this meeting. I'm quite familiar with most aspects of first aid and don't want to waste my time.
Oh.
I don't think you can ever go over this important topic too many times. Isn't that right, Mrs. O'Doherty? Don't we always have something new to learn?
Yes, that's right.
Will you be covering the new innovations being discovered on the continent for the treatment of previously incurable diseases? I believe we're very close to a cure for syphilis.
Oh, bless us. Anyone with syphilis deserves everything they get. The father's no time for anything like that. I mean, when Dermot O'Brien...
You were saying, Mrs. O'Doherty?
I was saying...
You were about to outline your proposed content for this session. I need to know if it's worth my while to stay.
That's right. Well,
Do you think, for example, you could cover gunshot wounds? I believe there are tremendous innovations in antiseptics and anaesthesia since the end of the war. Perhaps you could outline some of these for us.
Well...
The Correll-Dakin method has proven particularly effective. What is your opinion on it?
Correll?
The Correll-Dakin method, using a solution of sodium hypochlorite as an antiseptic in the treatment of infected wounds, thus dramatically reducing the need to amputate.
Have you ever had to do an amputation, Mrs. O'Doherty? I'd say the blood loss must be horrific.
No, I've never had to perform an amputation. I'm a midwife.
Just say now one of the little babies was born with a terrible infected injury. Would you have to amputate then?
Babies aren't ever really born with infected injuries.
Yes, but just imagine one was. Would you have to amputate? And how would you do it?
Well, if a baby was born with an infected injury...
Yeah, a really bad one.
Ah, the poor pet.
I would try to treat the infection first.
How would you do that?
Would you use the Carrel-Dakin method?
I would first of all clean out the wound.
Excellent. With a solution of sodium hypochlorite.
Well, no, I don't have any of that. I would use some clean, salty water.
Water.
And if that didn't work, would you amputate then?
No, I would apply a bread poultice.
A bread poultice.
Yes. You heat up some milk in a pan and put in
I
some
know what a bread poultice is. My grandmother used to use them, for goodness sake. Medicine has moved on since then.
And if that didn't work, if it was still really badly infected, like with pus coming out of it and all smelly and starting to turn a funny colour, would you amputate then?
Well, no.
No?
No. I don't know how to amputate. I'd have to call the doctor. Sorry.
Right. Well, I already know all about bread poultices and salty water. I can see there's not much for me to learn here. I'm going to go now.
Mrs. O'Doherty has gone to the trouble of doing up this great information note for us all on basic first aid practices. Would you like to tell us about that, Mrs. O'Doherty? Look, it says all about how to treat nasty cuts with clean, salty water and a bread poultice. Fantastic. And it deals with infection too. Very interesting. Bread poultice. High temperatures. Oh, now that's a tough one. Doesn't all get terrible high fevers. I'm always trying new ways to bring it down. What would you recommend, Mrs. O'Doherty?
I think it says it there. A cold compress.
Oh, thank you. A cold compress. Just what she needs. I never thought of that. That'll do the trick, huh?
and a bread poultice.
A bread poultice. Great.
I might try a bread poultice for the father's constipation next time. He gets terrible bugged up.
Maybe you could use it for an amputated limb too. I'd say those fellas Teresa was talking about have never even heard of a bread poultice.
You'll have to let us have your recipe, Mrs. O'Doherty. Mine doesn't seem to be as good as yours.
Well,
Mrs. O'Doherty, quick, you're needed.
We're having a first aid class at the moment. Mrs. O'Doherty is a bit busy.
Quick, it's an emergency.
What is it? Who needs me?
It's Larry Brophy. He's in the bookies. He's after taking a really bad turn. He's turned a really funny shade of green and grabbed his chest and just fell to the ground like a sack of spuds. Quick, Mrs. O'Doherty, you're needed.
But Dr. Kennedy, surely he must...
Dr. Kennedy's at a funeral mass over in Kilcock. He'll not be back before 4 o'clock. Mr. Darcy's in the bookies. He said to send for you.
I'm not really experienced in...
He looks bad, Mrs. O'Doherty. He could be his only chance. There's no one else.
You'd better go, Mrs. O'Doherty.
I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Barry.
Not at all, not at all. You're needed. We can do this again later. You were fantastic. You really were.
Was I? I thought I was making a mess of it all.
No, you were brilliant. Go on, quick. Oh, it sounds like poor Larry Brophy needs you more than we do. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll have to do this another time.
Oh, not at all, Mrs. Barry. Sure, poor Larry Brophy needs her more than we do. I'll just run out and see if I can help.
Oh. Hello, Brigid.
Betty.
I thought I would come a bit late and sneak in at the back where no one could see me. It's already over.
It is.
I missed it so.
You did.
Oh, Brigid, I'm so sorry. I never thought things would get...
What? That your husband would be sent to arrest your best friend's son?
He didn't want to do it. He hates himself.
He could leave if he wanted.
And do what, Brigid? He can no more leave the RIC than your Seamus, God rest him, could have left the British Army. There's bills to pay. I thought you, of all people, would understand that.
I do, Betty. I do understand, I really do. And I know it's not your fault. Oh, it's not even your Tom's fault. It's Sean.
It's different when it comes to your own door. I know, Brigid. I'd be the same. Anybody would.
I miss him.
If you never want to speak to me again, I'd understand.
I've no idea if he's safe or in danger or God knows what.
You're the only one who stood by me and Tom these past couple of years. You managed to keep Joseph on our side too.
Not anymore, Betty. He can't be persuaded.
I know. I went in for a pint of milk last week and you refused to serve me.
He's upset.
I know. He's a good man.
Your Tom is a good man too. I know that.
Two good men. Two different sides. Do we have to be on different sides? Do you fancy a cup of tea?
I do. Why not? Let me just tidy up here and we'll go back to my house.
What about Joseph?
Look, what about him? It's my home too. And I can bring my friends in if I want to. Yeah, and if I can separate you and Sean, well then so can he. Sean's my son after all.
How is he? Have you heard from him at all? Oh, I didn't mean... Oh, I would never. I was just asking after him. Brigid, I wouldn't ever. You know I wouldn't.
Maybe it's best if we don't talk about Sean.
Yes. Probably for the best.
Look, maybe we'll have tea some other time. I've a good bit to do here.
Oh. Right. Some other time, yes. Friends?
Aye. Friends.
Fractured is a Down at Heel production. All episodes were written by Joe Bergen, Brendan Farrell, Claire Joyce and Martina Riley. Sound engineer is Brendan Farrell. Fractured is supported by Kildare County Council through a bursary from Creative Ireland. It is also supported by the County Kildare Decade of Commemorations programme and the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media under the Decade of Centenaries 2012 to 2023 initiative.